All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. We are doing something a little bit different today. Oh, thanks for the follow. Wow, what a welcome. So today I'm here with HmmRice, my friend Anthony. You want to say hi? There he is. HmmRice. Oh shoot, you might still be muted. Why is that? Why is that still muted? Try again. Say words.
There.
There he is. All
Can you
right.
hear me?
Yes, you are audible now. So
Ah, excellent.
today we are going to be reading some scary stories off of the internet, primarily r slash no sleep, because
Spooky, spooky.
so spooky. I have tried to set the ambiance accordingly. It is spooky in here. Got a candle. It's very spooky. Uh, So we're gonna start with a story by uh, user Forward Crow 9291. This is from just 3 days ago, and it looked interesting. The title is is My Girlfriend Won't Let Me Deadbolt Our Closet Door. So
Wait, what? Is that an option even?
I didn't think so. I've never had a closet with like knobs.
Right. I mean, it is, I guess maybe some folks are very fortunate and have, closets that have doors.
I guess fancy. I mean, I
that you
guess I
could
had
deadbolt.
a linen closet with a handle once, but no deadbolt. I guess this story will tell us if this is something we should start investing in.
That's true, that's true.
All right. So, are
Start
you
us off.
are you looking at it as well?
Oh, yep, I'm following
Perfect.
along.
Okay, perfect. All right. Do you wanna be the girlfriend?
I could be the girlfriend.
Perfect. All right. After 3 years of dating, my girlfriend and I finally moved in together. This is great and all, but for any of you out there considering a similar move, please try to set any ground rules before you make the decision. I thought Lizzie and I were on the same page, but she threw me a curveball one day.
Now we can finally get rid of that creepy deadbolt on your closet.
I know you're probably jumping to a bunch of conclusions about me right now, but there's a good reason for it. And besides that, she knew about the deadbolt beforehand. This hadn't been brought up when we discussed the move. Hell, she hadn't even complained about the lock for years. But before you start jumping to conclusions, let me give you the background, which I pretty much have to give anytime someone sees my closet the first time. When I was a kid, I was terrified of my closet. Typical kid stuff like, there's a monster slash man in there. I used to wake up my dad multiple times a night saying the closet door opened itself and I saw or heard something in there. He would come check, reassure me, and close the door. A few hours later, the same would repeat. Finally, my dad got sick of waking up 3 times a night and decided to put a lock on my closet, convinced I was either opening the door in my sleep or intentionally to get attention. A normal lock didn't work, but he was still convinced I was somehow picking the lock and opening the door. He installed one of those chain locks they have at hotels at a height I couldn't reach. I would still wake him up saying the door was cracked open. One night, my dad was up late and heard slamming coming from my room. He checked, and I was standing by my closet, just opening and slamming the door in my sleep. The next day, he installed a deadbolt, and he has slept soundly ever since. I am taking my parents' word for a lot of this because I was only around 4 or 5 at the time. I remember running screaming to my parents' rooms a few times, but that's pretty much it. Anyway, bolting my closet became a nightly routine that I grew up with, and the few times I tried to stop, I would have awful nightmares and wake up to an open closet. I pretty much just resigned myself to bolting the door. When I moved out of my parents' house, I decided to give up the habit. My friends gave me crap about it since I was young, and the last thing I was going to do was bring back a girl to a room with a deadbolt closet. Serious AC murder vibes. I think that's supposed to be axe murder.
It is axe.
Axe. Yes. I had the familiar nightmares I associated with the other times I had tried to quit, but I decided to push through it. I woke up to the closet door opened so many times that I stopped closing it at all. I started waking up in the middle of the night and seeing things in my closet. This shook me, but I would turn on the lights and see something to explain it away. For example, I would think I see a person and it would be my golf bag. I would hear scratching on the door and find a branch outside my window. I could hear Warren whispered and think it was just the AC kicking on. Perfect ambiance. This pattern continued, but the plausible explanations became less plausible.
Plausible explanations.
I would see an unnaturally tall man in a bowler hat with twinkling eyes. When I turned the light on, there would be a bowler hat with some Christmas ornaments in July. And I've never
That's
bought a bowler
nice.
hat. It's a free bowler hat. I don't see what the problem is. I looked for that hat in the daytime many times without finding it. I would hear whispers of, take it.
Warren, come join us. Join us.
That would build up into the yells, then mix in with the sound of my fan. One night, I woke to the bowler hat man. He let out a deep chuckle and then lunged from the door, bounding at me on all fours, limbs twisting at alarming angles. I turned on my lamp, and the bowler hat sat in the middle of my room.
Wow.
I went to a 24-hour Walmart, bought a deadbolt, and installed it the same night. I slept like a baby. Explanations be damned, I kept that lock on my closet in every apartment. Lizzie knows this and knows how terrified I am of the closet, but she won't let me put a deadbolt on. She says, it's time for you to get over this phobia. It's been a month since we moved in. The nightmares are back. The closet door is always open. I hear them whispering to me.
Come, come, join. We will dance together. We will shower in the red.
I dreamt last night that I awoke wet, smelling metal. I walked to the bathroom, and in the mirror I found myself drenched in blood. The bowler hat man stood behind me, smiling, pleased, and patted my shoulder. He rolled down and whispered in my ear.
Yes, join us.
This morning I woke up and the closet door was closed, but I was inside. I felt a peculiar feeling on my head and reached up to find I was wearing a bowler cap. I begged Lizzie today to let me put on my lock. She is insistent that this is all a fantasy of mine. I don't know what's happening or what will happen next. I have to put the lock on. I can't last another night. Dun dun dun! Dun dun dun!
I'm just picturing Odd Job from, James Bond.
Yes.
I mean, is there another person who wears a bowler hat?
Um, I can only think of the uh mannequin or not mannequin, the uh ventriloquist dummy from Batman.
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, okay. I guess I wonder if they actually use the closet, or if the closet, they don't actually use it and they just put a deadbolt on it.
Hard to say. I mean, it seems like it's like their clothes closet, but it's spooky.
Yeah,
I
it's
think he got a free bowler hat out of the situation.
see, I think that's a win-win.
Yeah, I see nothing wrong with this. Bring him back. Like, come on.
I mean, the waking up, in red is kind of like,
Mm,
I don't know. It's kind of hard to clean.
yeah, it's a little rough, but free hats.
That's true.
I do like
I
a
don't
hat.
own a bowler hat. I
Nor
would
do
take one.
I. We need to fix this. We both need bowler hats. It's decided. I don't know where one gets a bowler hat, but we'll figure it out. Okay. What shall we read next? Would you like to pick one out? Take the lead?
Yeah. I think the one that I remember being the one that kind of stuck with me the most
Mm-hmm.
is about the search and rescue officers in a park,
Ooh.
and I
Ooh.
think they were talking about stairs in the middle of the woods.
Stairs. Stairs in the
And
woods.
yeah, exactly. And
Stairs.
it's like, well, that's kind of really weird.
That is. Although I grew up on a property with a chimney just in the middle of the woods, but that's because the house burned down around it. But the chimney
That's
was
what they,
rocks, so.
right. That's the official story,
The official story.
huh?
Dun dun dun. All that and all the other signs of the fire, but you know.
Fair. Or maybe they, did a very good and, covering up.
Very thorough cover up, yes.
Mm.
Hmm.
Oh,
Wonderful.
so this one is from 7 years ago
Ooh,
by the user Search and Rescue Woods.
wonderful. Do you want to share it
I'll
in
I'll
the
start it out.
Discord so that I can follow along?
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
I guess I
So
could
I
do
can
that.
help.
One moment, please. Your request is being processed.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good.
All right.
I forgot that you're gonna have that skeleton behind you.
You mean Zoe? She's just here
Yeah.
for the laughs. Let's see. Dun dun dun. And there's Mochi being adorable in the background, just being all
Uh,
happy in a loaf.
oh yeah.
Yeah, she's kind of why I stopped using the green screen because it's fun to just see her back there chilling out on the bat pillow.
Yeah. She was very uh she was hiding, hiding in plain sight. I didn't even see
Yeah.
her there.
I should put her. I should give her a black blanket so she stands out more. But God, it'll get so covered in hair. I like the ones that hide how hairy they've gotten.
That is fair. That is fair.
I wash them regularly, but she sleeps on them regularly, so there's only so much laundry I can do.
And she's not exactly a short hair.
No, she's not really a long hair, but she sure is fluffy.
Hmm.
All right,
Okay.
take it away.
Uh, I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell. I wasn't sure where else to post these stories, so I figured I shared them here. I've been a SAR officer, a search and rescue officer, for a few years now, and along the way, I've seen some things that I think you guys will be interested in. Oh, I guess we should post a little notice to the viewers out there that some of these stories might be disturbing,
Ooh,
and
yes.
that you should be if you're
Proceed with
not
caution.
yeah, proceed with caution,
Yes,
because there might be some sensitive topics, some
yes.
some things that will keep you awake.
Maybe I
And
will mark this as for mature audiences.
okay, good. Just want to make sure, and people are not blaming you for like I can't go to bed last night.
Well, I mean, this is spooky month, so
Fair.
I don't know how to mark this for mature audiences.
Well, I mean, our caution here is good
Yes.
enough, I think, probably.
Fair enough. Y'all have been warned. This is literally called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, so proceed at your own risk. All right. Onward.
I have a pretty good track record for finding missing people. Most of the time, they just wander off the path or slip down a small cliff, and they can't find their way back. The majority of them have heard the old stay where you are thing,
Stay where you
and they
are.
don't wander far. But I've had two cases where that didn't happen. Both bother me a lot, and I use them as a motivation to search even harder on the missing person cases I get called on. The first was a little boy who was out berry picking with his parents. He and his sister were together, and both of them went missing around the same time. Their parents lost sight of them for a few seconds, and in that time, both the kids apparently wandered off. When their parents couldn't find them, they called us, and we came out to search the area. We found the daughter pretty quickly, and when we asked where her brother was, she told us that he'd been taken away by the bear man.
The bear man.
She said he gave her berries and told her to stay quiet, that he wanted to play with her brother for a while. The last she saw of her brother, he was riding on the shoulder of the bear man and seemed calm. Of course, our first thought was abduction, but we never found a trace of another human being in that area. The little girl was also insistent that he wasn't a normal man, but that he was tall and covered in hair, like a bear, and that he had a weird face.
Weird face.
We searched that area for weeks. It was one of the longest calls I've ever been on, but we never found a single trace of that kid. The other was a young woman who was out hiking with her mom and grandpa. According to the mother, her daughter had climbed up to a tree to get a better view of the forest, and she'd never come back down. They waited at the base of the tree for hours, calling her name, before they called for help. Again, we searched everywhere, and we never found a trace of her. I have no idea where she could have possibly have gone, because neither her mother or grandpa saw her came down.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, being in the woods is scary as is, right?
I mean, keep bear spray. Keep those bear men away.
That's true. Hopefully, the bear spray will be effective on the bear man.
Yep.
You wanna take the next one?
Sure. A few times I've been out on my own searching with a canine, and they've tried to lead me straight up cliffs. Not hills, not even rock faces. Straight, sheer cliffs with no possible handholds. It's always baffling. And in those cases, we usually find the person on the other side of the cliff or miles away from where the canine had led us. I'm sure there's an explanation, but it's sort of strange. That makes me think of the extreme rock climbing videos I used to watch in college.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, people people can get up some places I wouldn't think people could get up.
And I wonder if, something to do with adrenaline as well.
Could be.
Because, there's definitely stories about people doing incredible stuff when they're in a
Adrenaline.
adrenaline mode.
Yeah. Lifting cars off babies, whatnot.
Wait.
Cool.
Okay, the next one. One particularly sad case involved the recovery of a body. A 9-year-old girl fell down an embankment and got impaled on a dead tree at the base. It was a complete freak accident, but I'll never forget the sound her mother made when we told her what had happened. She saw the body bag being loaded into the ambulance, and she let out the most haunting, heartbroken wail I've ever heard. It was like her whole life was crashing down around her, and a part of her had died with her daughter. I heard from another search and rescue officer that she killed herself a few weeks after it happened. She couldn't live with the loss of her daughter.
That's a real one. That's a real one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it, you know, I could definitely see that in a newspaper story. I'm sure it has happened
Oh, for sure.
here in the US.
Yep. It's, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know that I've heard of anyone getting impaled by a dead tree, but I believe it. I don't disbelieve that one. Oof.
Yeah.
Wild.
A freak accident it is.
Indeed. All right. I was teamed up with another search and rescue officer because we'd received reports of bears in the area. We were looking for a guy who hadn't come home from a climbing trip when he was supposed to, and we ended up having to do some serious climbing to get where we figured he'd be. We found him trapped in a small crevasse with a broken leg. It was not pleasant. He'd been there for almost 2 days, and his leg was very obviously infected. We were able to get him into a chopper, and I heard from one of the EMTs that the guy was absolutely inconsolable. He kept talking about how he'd been doing fine, and when he'd gotten to the top, a man had been there. He said the guy had no climbing equipment, and he was wearing a parka and ski pants. He walked up to the guy, and when the guy turned around, he said the guy had no face. He was just blank. He freaked out and ended up trying to get off the mountain too fast, which is why he'd fallen. He said he could hear the guy all night climbing down the mountain and letting out these horrible muffled screams. That story bothered the hell out of me. I'm glad I wasn't there to hear it. Whew.
The man with no face.
That makes me that makes me think of that one scene from the newest Doctor Strange movie. You
Oh
know,
no.
potential spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it. Mute me for a minute. Um, when they're in the other universe and they're with the Illuminati, and the what's his name who can't like speak, otherwise he'll
Right.
and they're like, oh, hey Wanda, he can kill you just by opening his mouth, and then she goes, what mouth? And then he doesn't have a mouth anymore, and he screams and blows up his own head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that makes me think of.
That movie was definitely a creepy movie.
It, yep, it went full on horror movie a couple of times.
Yeah, at some point something switched and it's definitely turned into a horror movie.
I wasn't prepared for Wanda to be a full on horror movie monster.
She just couldn't be stopped. I
Oh,
mean, she became the
yep.
the creepy one.
Die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Anyway, on to the next one.
Sure.
I think it's your turn.
One of the scariest things I've ever had happen to me involved the search for a young woman who'd gotten separated from her hiking group. We were out until late at night because the dogs had picked up her scent. When we found her, she was curled up under a large rotted log. She was missing her shoes and pack, and she was clearly in shock. She didn't have any injuries, and we were able to get her to walk with us back to base ops. Along the way, she kept looking behind us and asking us why that big man with black eyes was following us. We couldn't see anyone, So we just wrote it off as some weird symptom of shock. But the closer we got to the base, the more agitated this woman got. She kept asking me to tell him to stop making faces at her. At one point, she stopped and turned around and started yelling into the forest, saying that she wanted him to leave her alone. She wasn't going to go with him, she said. Then she wouldn't give us to him. We finally got her to keep moving, but we started hearing these weird noises coming from all around us. It was almost like coughing, but more rhythmic and deeper. It was almost insect like. I don't really know how else to describe it. When we were within sight of base ops, the woman turns to me, and her eyes are about as wide as I can imagine a human could open them. She touches my shoulder and says, "He says to tell you to speed up. He doesn't like looking at the scar on your neck." I have a very small scar on the base of my neck, but it's mostly hidden under my collar, and I have no idea how this woman saw it. Right after she said it, I hear that weird coughing right in my ear, and I just about jumped out of my skin. I hustled her to ops, trying not to show how freaked out I was. But I have to say, I was really happy when we left the area that night. Yikes.
Yikes. Why am I imagining like a cicada rhythm for that cough?
Yeah, I don't like that.
No
Mm.
good, no. This is
Yeah,
the
I wonder.
last one I'll tell. Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
it is the last one.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. This is the last one I tell, and it's probably the weirdest story I have. Now, I don't know if this is true in every search and rescue unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken, regular thing we run into. You can try asking about it with other search and rescue officers, but even if they know what you're talking about, they probably won't say anything about it. We've been told not to talk about it by our superiors. And at this point, we've all gotten so used to it that it doesn't even really seem weird anymore. On just about every case where we're really far into the wilderness, I'm talking 30 or 40 miles, at some point we'll find a staircase in the middle of the woods. It's almost like if you took the stairs in your house, cut them out, and put them in the forest. I asked about it the first time I saw some, and the other officer just told me not to worry about it, that it was normal. Everyone I asked said the same thing. I wanted to go check them out, but I was told very emphatically that I should never go near any of them. I just sort of ignore them now when I run into them because it happens so frequently. Damn.
Oof.
Oof.
Stingers.
I would totally check them out. I would die in a horror movie. I would absolutely die in a horror movie.
Trying to think if any stairs in the middle of the woods.
Would you approach them?
Well, I would approach but not go up them. Some things are, uh, you know,
Yeah,
better left alone, one might say.
fair enough. I am nosy.
You're like a cat.
Uh-huh. Curiosity will absolutely kill me one day. In fairness, if they don't look structurally sound, I wouldn't go up them because I don't want to get tetanus or anything.
That's
But
fair.
if they look solid, you bet your sweet Bippy I'm going up those stairs. Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
spirit of adventure, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, he has a part two, but whoa,
Well, we could go back to that one after we uh,
veer off.
do other stories, maybe.
Sounds good. Let's see. So we have a couple options. Ooh, found another one from 3 days ago. I don't know how
Ooh.
long it is, but here, I'll send it in the Discord. This one is by user Mr. Beef Thighs from 3 days ago.
Nice.
Nice. It's titled, I'm an animal control expert who specializes in cryptids. One cryptid is entering human homes more often than usual. This is a PSA. For years, I was the guy to call if you had a squirrel in your attic. I mean, to a lot of people, I'm still that guy, but over the last 20 years, I've branched out to other, less common infestations. Now I'm the guy you call if there's a haunted doll rummaging through your attic, or a Sasquatch trampling your flower beds. I love my job. The specializations I've acquired have allowed me to travel across the country, meet incredible people, and experience cryptids like few have ever done before. Doesn't hurt that the pay is great, but the stories are even better. I have one short story for you now. It's more of a public service announcement than anything else, really. I've dealt with every sort of infestation from Sasquatches. Spray human urine around the area of sighting and it will avoid the area.
Really? That's good to know.
I don't want to know how he figured that out. Demonic presences usually need to bring a priest in. Sometimes it can be tricked into inhabiting a lesser creature, like a frog.
Wow.
Man, just making demon frogs out here. Damn. And jackalopes. It's just a bunny with some antlers. Put it in a cage and give that poor thing a carrot. Okay.
Um, they're how harmful can they be, right?
Yeah. It's just a little rabbit. I watch too much Monty Python. Anyway, recently there has been one cryptid that has been growing more and more invasive into human settlements, the hide behind. Zoe, take notes. Most commonly found in the forests of the northern United States and Canada, the hide behind is one cryptid that cannot easily be dealt with. In fact, I'm not sure it's even possible for one of these to be bagged and tagged like we normally would with other cryptids. To my knowledge, no hide behind has ever been killed, maimed, dazed, or even simply removed from a residence. Once it has made a claim to an area, whether it be a local forest, a cave, or even, in one particularly bloody case, a Bass Pro Shop, it will defend that area to the death. I think my candle's trying to die, or else it's behind me right now. Gonna have to get a real candle. Most commonly found in the north. Nope, I read that already. Candles really.
First documented by
There
the
we
Native
are.
Americans.
Then by lumberjacks in the Pacific Northwest of America, the hide behind is one of the lesser known but cryptids on the continent, but without a doubt, one of the most dangerous. No
There's
one.
no but there.
I don't know why there's a but. The hide behind likes looking at butts.
It's the behind, right?
Yeah, hide behind the behind. No one really knows what they look like. As the name suggests, as soon as they are seen, they quickly duck out of view to hide behind anything in the vicinity. In the wild, this would be trees and rocks. In your home, this could be a corner, a kitchen cabinet, a television, or literally anything else. They can manipulate their body to hide behind any object of any size. In the few accounts of the sightings we have on record, they've been described as everything from a large bear slash lion hybrid to a frail and elderly woman with long arms and rashes on her skin. Because of this wide discrepancy in descriptions, they are believed to be shapeshifters that can change their shape based on what they believe will best get their potential victim to come closer and investigate the sighting. I don't know why the hide behinds are moving into suburbs. I'd guess destruction is of their natural habitat, but it's becoming a real problem. That's why I'm going to share this story with you now, so you know what to do if one shows up in your home. I pulled up to Tim's house around 12 p.m. on Tuesday. He had called to tell us there was a demonic entity in his house, and we needed to remove it ASAP. They always demand ASAP. Tim had nothing going on, but people are so much more demanding than they were 20 years ago. I took a quick look around the house, and it was pretty apparent there wasn't anything sort of demonic in his residence. Not only was there no reaction to the holy water and Ouija board I had brought with me, but Tim also didn't have normal symptoms of a demonic haunting: bad dreams, sleep paralysis, or the witnessing of any telekinetic events. After further questioning, he described what he had seen in more detail. Would you like to take the italicized parts?
Sure. First, I was sitting right there on the couch, watching television, when I got the feeling I was being watched. I turned my attention to the screen door, and for just a second I saw a bear looking in through the screen. But it wasn't a bear, you see. A bear would just keep on staring at me or keep poking at the door. But this thing just ducked out of view as quick as can be, like it was trying to sneak up on me, and I had caught it in the act. It bothered me something awful, but I just grabbed my gun, set it on my lap, and kept on watching the TV. And eventually, that feeling like I was being watched just kind of melted off. It was all peaches and cream until she showed up a few days later.
The she Tim was referring to was a new human form that the hide behind was taking. I assume it was because of the lack of a reaction to the bear form it had previously shown itself as. Like I said earlier, the hide behind wants you to look for it, to come nearer, like the anglerfish. It dangles something in front of you in an attempt to bring you closer. It's a lazy hunter.
I was out in the garage in my workshop, and that feeling come over me again. That being watched feeling. I turn around and I'm looking out the garage door, and I don't see nothing. But then out of nowhere, I see a lady's head and shoulder pop out from the corner of the garage. And the second she sees me eyeing her, she pops right back around the corner where she came from. Well, this time, I went looking around for her. I gave a wide berth around the corner because I lived in New York City for a year in the 70s. So I've seen crazy people, and she looked crazy. And I didn't want her grabbing. So I gave a wide berth around that corner, and there wasn't no one there. I walked around the house, and I didn't see anyone. Not even footprints. Tell me that ain't demonic.
It wasn't demonic. It was a hide behind, and I told the man as such. I told him living out here on the edge of town made him an easy target for it. I told him that there really isn't any way to get rid of them or scare them off. I told him he could try to leave his house for a year at minimum, and maybe, with luck, it would leave on its own. But the best bet would be for him to burn the place down and never come back. He didn't like that answer.
My family lived in this house for 3 generations. I ain't leaving, and I sure as hell ain't burning nothing down. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'll keep my shotgun on me, and when I get that feeling again, I'll shoot it. Works for bears. That's the meanest thing around these parts. Don't see why it wouldn't work for this, what you call it, hide behind.
You can't argue with anyone over the age of 65. People get set in their ways, their beliefs calcify. So instead, I was honest with him. I told him two things. The first thing I told him was that eventually he'd get that feeling that he was being watched, and he'd get his gun. He'd start looking around for the hide behind, only he wouldn't find it. That's what happens in all these cases, because at one point, because at that point, if found, the beast's hiding spot the best hiding spot it can possibly get, the only place you won't be able to lay eyes on it, even if you tried, is directly behind you. At that point, it's too late for you. The second thing I told him was that I'd be back in 2 days. More than likely, he'd be dead. And then I left. 2 days later, I pulled my van up to Tim's driveway and find the screen door open and blowing in the wind. I didn't even need to cross the threshold of the house to find him. He was everywhere. On the floor, the ceiling, the walls. The smell was unbelievable. I poured some gasoline on the front porch and lit a match. The house was an inferno within 30 seconds. Got in my van and started to pull out of the driveway and took one last look at the house, then beyond it, out into the tree line where I saw, just for a split second, a young boy before he quickly pulled back, disappeared behind a thin little tree. I was hundreds of miles away by lunchtime. I say this to tell you, if you ever think you might have a hide behind in your house or even in the area, leave. Burn the place down if you can so new people don't move in. These things are like bears. If they know they can get food someplace, they're just going to keep coming back. If you get the feeling that you're being watched and you can't figure out why, call your loved ones because it's standing directly behind you.
Bum, bum, bum.
That's a good one. I like creepy cryptids like that. I'm on creepy TikTok.
Creepy TikTok.
Scary story TikTok. And boy, let me tell you, the Appalachia, they have some stories. I'll tell you about not deer sometimes.
Really, Appalachia, huh?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. You're also not supposed to whistle outside at night, something I've done many times. Oops.
Well, again, um, you know, if you are in a populated area, you should be fine. If you
So
are,
this is something I do in my childhood home, which was 5 miles out of town with no neighbors
I see.
in the middle of the woods.
Well, is there, precautions of like making noise so things
Exactly.
try to stay away,
Yeah, that's why I would do it when I'd come home a
Yeah.
little bit late and it was dark. I'd make a lot of noise so that I wouldn't startle any bears or anything that were around. Sometimes that was whistling. And apparently that's a great way to get dead by a cryptid. But hey, I'm still here, so neat.
Hey, the cryptids in your area were nice cryptids.
Yeah, they're pretty chill. I was
Yeah.
more concerned about the mountain lions.
Right, exactly. The mountain lions and the bear.
Yeah.
Those aren't exactly cryptids.
Mm-hmm.
They're a different kind of danger.
Yep. We'd, out with a flashlight at night just looking for reflective eyes. So you'd know if you needed to pull your coat up to make yourself big. Ah, good
Although
times.
these days, I think you could get flashlights that are ridiculously powerful.
You can.
Yeah.
It's wild. I
And I wonder if some of them are illegal.
probably,
Yeah. Or
or will
like
be.
I'm guessing at some point you can't like have something that's so bright that um you're basically causing light pollution or something.
You'd think there's a limit. It's probably something related to the thing about laser pointers blinding pilots things.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Probably some similar clause or something.
Right.
Oh, all
The
right.
hype behind. This reminds me of sometimes, you have this feeling of like just corn. I felt like there's something, just moved or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that's just, your mind's playing tricks at you.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you when I lived in a studio
Uh-huh.
about 10 years ago, um, it was not an illusion. It was a
Mm.
fucking mouse.
Oh no. Oh
And
no.
that's how I found out that I had a mice infestation in the studio in the apartment.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, that was in some ways worse because
Ah,
like, oh, it's not just my mind playing tricks on me.
no.
There's
Your
little
mind.
freaking critters
Yeah, that's
eating
worse.
my stash of stuff
Mm-hmm.
and pooping in my laundry basket. How about
Yeah.
that? Very nice of them. Yeah.
Mice creep me out, and I'm not sure why. I had pet rodents. I had pet rats and things growing up. Like, I guess for me, context is key. Like, those were ones I invited into my home.
Exactly.
Any intruder is not welcome, even if it's tiny and fluffy. Because that intruder might have hantavirus.
Yeah.
And I'm not about that.
Oh, I had to look that up. It's like, holy crap, how long
Oh,
have these mice been in my apartment?
yep,
And there's mice poops, every little corner. I didn't even notice. Like, oh,
yep,
awesome.
yep. We, my, that childhood home I was talking about that was, in the middle of nowhere. Well, there's a bit of a valley there. And so we'd get, little prairie mice in our basement all the time. They only made it upstairs once. That was a very upsetting memory. But yeah, so we'd have to have, you know, traps and things and ugh, ugh just awful.
I thought that you had a number of pets in your retinue,
We
in
did.
your employment.
We did. But when our key mouser passed away, she was also pretty
Oh,
lazy and would just be like, meh, maybe I'll kill it. Maybe this one can live.
I see.
um,
They've reached an accord. I
yeah,
see.
sometimes she just couldn't be asked. But yeah, when she passed away, it was suddenly far more apparent that we had mice. Because I
I see. I
hadn't really
see.
noticed like through my childhood and things. Because we had her since I was like 3, so I was just like, Charlie will take care of it. It's fine.
Right.
But then she hit old age when I was a teenager and passed away, and then we had mice.
Right. I'm guessing, the word gets around. It's like, yeah, there's a mighty beast that, kills our kin. So
Mm-hmm.
let's not go up. But yeah, when the
Probably.
guardian passes and has no one to pass the mantle to, unfortunately, then the word gets out.
Yeah. Oh, there were so many mice in that damn basement. Ah. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's the real horror story.
yeah, exactly. And it's tough because I think, I even brought in the exterminator and stuff like that, and
Oh.
they kept going on. I
Yep.
mean, it's they're
Once they
I'm
start,
sure, yeah,
it's
and they
hard.
were, I'm sure, had a network of mice in the whole like apartment complex.
Once
So
they're in the walls, that's
yeah.
it's game over. Yep.
Mhm.
Our basement was unfinished at the time. Since
Mm.
I'm gonna tell you something real horrific now. Brace yourself.
Oh,
Um,
great.
my dad has since finished the basement.
No.
And it's beautiful, renovated, like a actual finished space now.
Mm.
When they were tearing out the old ceiling,
Oh no. No.
uh-huh.
No.
The amount
Oh God.
of thankfully empty nests and cat food that was found up there, and the fields of mice poop.
You know, you
It
can't see
was-
me right now, but
I can
it
imagine your face.
I I'm disgusted.
Yeah, it was yeah, that's horrific for you.
Yeah, that
Yep.
Blech.
Yep. Yeah, I
Well,
they didn't finish it until after I moved out, so I didn't have to deal with that.
wow, yeah.
No, I was
Yeah, well.
just over there because that was in the old office, which had
Mm,
like these really old windows, one of which was just going to get entirely covered up, like drywalled in, because it didn't face outside anymore, like the basement was expanded. So I'm
mhm.
just over here trying to get my dad to put a creepy doll in that window
Nice.
before boarding it up. Because
You
I'm
know,
a monster. And oh,
uh,
you want to know my dad's response? Oh, I was thinking skeleton in the crawl space. Here's
I
why I'm
see.
like this. It's genetic. It's not my fault.
Mm. Where was this? I think I was just when I was living at the university's student housing.
Oh.
I remember walking past, uh, you know, someone's window and they had put up a very realistic looking doll. I was like, and every time I passed that apartment, I was like, oh God, I thought that there's somebody just like looking at me from the window. I was like, okay, that's just a
That's just a
mannequin or
doll.
something.
I probably could have been friends with that person.
Yeah, it's not nice, but you know, it
I'll
it
teach
keeps
you.
you it keeps you alert
Yeah,
and awake.
yeah.
So
On
you
your
are
toes.
alert for other
Yeah.
dangers that is not from Windows.
There you go. But I like watching on TikTok whenever somebody does like a house renovation or whatever, and they're like, I found this really creepy thing in the wall. I'm like, my people. Leaving creepy things in walls and walking away.
Yeah.
Ah, ha, ha, ha.
If I tried to do something like that, I would probably forget it and then scare myself, my future self. It's like, what the oh, right.
You'd
This is
remember.
this is past me.
Yeah,
Ho ho ho.
past me as a funny guy.
Exactly.
Ah, that's great. Well, shall we move on to another story?
Sure. Let's do another one.
Do you want to pick one out?
Let's see here. Uh, It was another one that was that I read the other day.
There's some good ones, even in the last few days.
Right. I think. Let me see if I could find one.
Yeah,
I guess there's a lot of Halloween ones,
that there are.
and find one that is giving out candies.
Ooh, beautiful.
Okay, let's try this one out.
All right.
Posted 11 hours ago
Cool.
by user in Latharn. In Latharn. Okay, one. I'll send you the link.
Perfect.
It says, "Do not give candies to strangers on Halloween, for your own good. I never liked this holiday since I was a kid. Don't you find it kind of controversial? Everybody tells you not to take candies from strangers, and then they encourage you to do the exact opposite thing. Knock on strangers' doors for it. And did you know that the rule works both ways, actually? You should never give sweets to unfamiliar kids."
Interesting. I just want to note I nodded at don't you find it kind of controversial, thinking that they meant it's controversial they didn't like this holiday. Just
I
wanted to
mean,
establish that. Continue.
to be fair, the every kid that I know loves Halloween, especially if
Awesome.
they've gone trick or treating.
Mm-hmm.
Because they get a ridiculous amount of candy and chocolate.
And I like it because I can have Zoe here out and nobody judges me.
Fair.
And bats everywhere. It's great. Anyway, continue.
You know, Halloween for me has been, uh, at least pre-pandemic, has been pretty good because I usually have people over at my place and help me give out candy for the kids in my neighborhood
There you go.
because there's a swarm of them here,
There's quite a
and
few in your neighborhood.
they're a true horror because they go through two giant bags from Costco,
Whoa.
and when I run out, I have to turn off my lights and then run away because
Hide.
and it is kind of like a horror story. It's like they keep ringing on my doorbell. I have to say
There's no
I'm
more candy.
ignoring them.
Yep.
They're like, "You cannot open up the door. Do not open up the door." Because there are monsters out
I'm
there
gonna
looking
get ya.
for your sweets. One year, I made the mistake of breaking into my private reserve of
Oh,
snacks. I was like, "No, not
nope.
anymore. We're not gonna do that."
Never do that. That's how
Yeah.
they get you. Oh, that's great. Okay.
Back to the story.
Back to the story.
It happened last year. I do not usually celebrate the thing, but my wife is quite a sentimental flower. So she was all excited about decorating the place, getting herself a costume and stacking on goodies to give away. I just couldn't resist. "It's gonna be fun. I know you'll like it," she said. I couldn't argue, because why would I? Happy wife, happy life, after all. The eve itself was not much to mention of. I just opened the door, throw some candies to buckets and sacks, said something about how good the costumes were, and watch my wife smiling. Repeat. By the end of the day, we almost ran out of sweets and were actually quite tired. Things started to develop rapidly the next day. I was minding my business as someone knocked on the front door. I went to check it, and there was this guy. Just your average Joe waiting at my porch. Pair of jeans, brown jacket, brown hair, glasses. Never saw him around before. Before I could ask anything or even say hello, he started to speak. Hello? I believe my son visited your house yesterday for trick or treating, right? And I believe you gave him some candies. Great. Thing is, my son has diabetes, and you could potentially kill him yesterday if it was not me and his mother who interfered and took the sweets from him. What were you thinking in the first place? And before I could answer with anything or even raise my eyebrows, he continued. If you were so willing to treat my son, you should have given him some sugar free candies. But that's not it. At first, I expected to visit you and demand some excuse. But later, it came to me that some of those sweets include peanuts, and my boy is extremely allergic to nuts. I'm not calling the police yet, but I'm pretty convinced you have some cruel intentions toward our family. So I demand a proper excuse. Public one would be sufficient, and some sort of compensation for moral damage. I'll accept no less than $3,000, as you ruined the holiday for Timmy. I'll buy him some proper treats. Thank you. I stood there with my jaw open, completely speechless. Was this guy released from a mental hospital or something? I never seen somebody so impudent in my life, and I've seen a lot. Excuse me, what? All I could come up with at the moment. You heard me right, mister. 3,000 and a public excuse. I didn't come here to bargain, the man said. I'm sorry, but are you out of your mind? It's Halloween. Not that I forced your kid to get some sugar from me. If you had a child with special needs, you should have probably accompanied him at times to make sure things like this didn't happen, Warn the parents, or I don't know, give him a note to show or something. I replied, refusing to believe in the seriousness of the whole situation. Great. Not just shamelessly ignoring your own deeds, but trying to make excuses by giving out parenting lessons? That's just great. He raised he raised his voice. Hey man, chill. I can't take your claim seriously. It's bullshit. Look, pal, I understand you have a kid with special needs, okay? But it's not my problem to be honest. So go get some tea, relax, and look for some anger management classes. I'm neither paying you nor giving out any excuses. Have a nice day, I've said, after intending to slam the door to his nose. He was boiling with rage as he turned away to leave, and I heard him mumbling, Oh, we'll see about that. We'll see. Who was it? My wife asked as I returned to the kitchen, so I briefly retold to her about the weird guest. Huh, what a dork. Maybe it's the moon cycle or something. She laughed. Yeah, just some lunatic and his cuckoo ideas on how to get extra cash, I guess. I smiled back at her. But the laughs didn't last that long as the problem started. Next morning, I've discovered somebody stabbed my tires. All four of them. That was unpleasant, but we live in a crowded neighborhood and shit happens. I thought about the man, but didn't take it seriously, as he didn't look confident enough to pull something like that. The day after somebody damaged my fuse box, located in the uh, communal building down the street, breaking in and cutting some wires, there was a handwritten note left saying, Am I still a joke to you? Power was down for 5 hours straight before the technicians arrived. Not that I had a short temper, but that was enough. I took the note and went to the local police station. That's a smart way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Bring the cops. There, I
Criminal
told the
mischief is a
officer.
thing.
Exactly. When people take it too far.
Mm-hmm.
There, I told the officer on duty everything about the incident with the angry neighbor, about the car, and the breaking into the substation. I reinforced the statement with a note I found and described the man's appearance. Did what I could. Both me and my wife woke up in the middle of the night as our kitchen window shattered with a loud bang. There was a fist-sized stone and another note taped to it. You shouldn't have done it. That was more than enough. Next morning, I took my sweetheart to a bus station so she could spend some time with her parents, and I was about to take care of this mess. No idea how, but I would figure it out once she was out of danger. Who knows what that psychopath has in mind? I called the police several times, updating my initial complaint with some details and asking how far did they get with it. Unfortunately, there were no clues yet. They asked around about the man, but nobody in the street could recall seeing him or whatsoever. But all of that was child's play compared to what's next. Later that day, I realized that my wife never called back, as we agreed. She was supposed to do it when she would get to her parents. I dialed the number, but it was out of reach. So I called her mom, and to my surprise, she wasn't there yet. She wasn't there yet 6 more hours after. And the next day, my dearest person went missing. I did all I could. Filed a missing person report, talked to the bus station personnel, the bus driver himself with little to no result. Nobody paid attention to that specific woman and where she went afterwards. CCTV didn't bring any understanding, as she wasn't captured on any recordings. I knew exactly whom I should blame. Days passed, police was not much of help, and I was getting more and more desperate. She, the love of my life, disappeared in the light of day with no trace. I couldn't sleep or eat. I was devastated. That was too much to bear. Weeks later, as I was sitting in the living room, blankly staring at the wall, a knock on the door shook me up. It was dark outside, close to 11 p.m. Who is it? I asked, approaching. Sir, this is Officer Johnson from the police department. We have some details on your case. Please open up, the voice said. With a grim heart and dreary thought of the worst, I pulled the door open. Next second, my eyes were burning as if somebody tossed a torch to my face. I think I got pepper sprayed. And the second after, electrical buzzing crackled below my left ear as my whole body shook in painful convulsions until I blacked out. My consciousness returned, revealing as I was lying in the front of my door. My head pounded with ache, and the eyes are still burned like hell. As I stood up to wash them, a piece of paper residing on my chest fell down on the floor. It read, "So now you understand what it's like to almost lose someone you love. Now we're even," in the same ugly handwriting. Seconds later, I found my wife lying on the carpet in the living room, tied up, pale and exhausted, but alive. They never found the man, never seen him again. Nobody around ever heard of diabetic Timmy or his parents. If you wonder, he never did anything horrible to my wife. She was kept in a room, tied and blindfolded, and a couple of times per day she was given food and water. She doesn't remember how she got there or how she got back to our place. It crippled me a lot. I'm afraid of strangers now. We moved away from the city, and it's just now, when I could speak about this to others. We don't celebrate Halloween anymore, but I'm not trying to spoil it for you. Just be careful next time you'll be handing the candies to strangers.
It's like if Karen was a horror movie.
I mean, again, the guy in the story had a good argument. I mean, it's if your kid has all these things,
Yeah,
you want to make sure that you're with them to make sure that,
it's the parents'
or
responsibility.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's like, why you're blaming strangers?
My favorite part is going down to the comments and reading the people who are acting like this is real.
I mean, I could definitely see it wouldn't be surprising to me now when if one of my neighbors comes to me and it's like, why did you give my kid blah blah blah?
I mean, yeah, the entitled parent, that rings uncomfortably real, but the rest.
Like,
Oh.
see, I mean, um, now I always ask if anybody in my office has food allergies because I want to be cognizant of it.
That's fair. And with things like nut allergies, I get it because it's like, oh, a very little bit can literally kill somebody.
I, I
But,
mean, brought some chocolate with I think peanut butter in them or something like that,
uh huh.
and I gave it to one of the students that worked in our office, and yeah, little did I know he had peanut allergy,
Oh
and
no.
we had to scramble for Benadryl because he when
Whoops.
luckily he realized as he was biting into it, so he didn't swallow too much of it.
That's good.
But yeah,
Ah,
I was like, okay, so I'm going to take note to not kill any of my coworkers
yay.
because that would be unfortunate.
Yep.
Kind
Ugh.
of put a damper into things.
Just a smidge.
Yeah, I
Oh
mean,
man.
this horror story is a little too realistic, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
there's a, there's a lot of people that
Mm-hmm.
it's no cryptid.
Yeah. Fair. I found another one.
Ooh,
It looks pretty fun. Linking it in the Discord now. It was posted 6 days ago by user Priestess of Spiders.
great. Another basement dweller.
Yay! It's titled, I thought my apartment was haunted, but the truth is so much worse. In retrospect, it should have been obvious from the start that there was something going on. It was my first time renting an apartment, but even I thought that the landlord was eager for me to move in as soon as possible. The rent was ridiculously low for the area. The apartment itself was in pristine condition, and the whole process from touring the apartment to moving only took about a week. Nothing like that comes without a catch. Apartment 311 was a pleasant place to live at first. I had it had 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, and since I lived alone, that meant I got to convert 1 bedroom into my own office space. It came with a handful of paintings already, so it didn't even have the off-putting liminal feeling that some empty apartments have. The only immediate downside I could tell from the start was that there was a slight smell in the living room from time to time. It wasn't anything too noticeable, but you would occasionally get a faint whiff of some musty odor. I was living in apartment 311 for a couple weeks before I noticed anything was wrong. It started out with simple stuff like various knickknacks being placed on the wrong shelves, snacks and small objects going missing, things like that. Once or twice I found the fridge left open. These things would only happen when I was asleep, and it made me feel like I was going crazy. There was no way anyone could be breaking into my apartment just to steal some useless crap and move around some collectibles. The door was locked whenever I went to bed, and even if someone hypothetically had a key, I always made sure to bolt the door as well. I considered getting some security cameras set up, but I balked at the price when I looked into the possibility. Though the apartment was admittedly cheap, between rent and utilities, I still couldn't afford to set up an entire security system. I tried to put it out of my mind, assuming that maybe I was just sleepwalking or getting up for a midnight snack and forgetting by the next morning. I've never been an easy sleeper, was often prone to night terrors and other disturbances, which had only gotten worse now that I was in an unfamiliar environment. Of all the sleep problems I've experienced, by far the least pleasant is sleep paralysis. It used to happen fairly rarely, maybe once every 2 or 3 months. But after moving into the apartment, it became almost a weekly occurrence. Now, usually my sleep paralysis is fairly mild. I find myself unable to move, eyes open, and find it difficult to breathe. Sometimes I feel like there's a presence in the room with me, but before I moved, I had never experienced any form of hallucinations, visual or otherwise. I'd never seen a ghost, monster, hag, or any other sort of entity while I was paralyzed. It was only ever a sense of dread and total paralysis of the body. That changed about the same time I noticed the missing food and misplaced objects. As usual, I felt like I had woken up, but I couldn't move a single muscle. It was hard to breathe, and I had this awful feeling like I wasn't alone. I tried to calm myself down, to remind myself that I had been through this before, and had always wound up okay, but something felt different. It was then that I noticed the door to my bedroom slowly opening, inch by inch. I could hear the creak of hinges as it swung inward. Someone or something was coming into my room. He peeked his head around at first, dull eyes reflecting the faint glow of moonlight from my bedroom window. He was bald, with pale, flaky skin. I wanted to scream when I saw his expression, but I was still a prisoner of my own body. The man had a forced, rictus grin on his face, chipped yellow teeth clenched tightly together, grinding against one another. I watched in horror as the rest of the man's body slowly passed into the room, tiptoeing as if he were creeping up behind someone in a cartoon. The man was utterly emaciated, almost skeletal in appearance, and covered in sores and pockmarks. He was stark naked and smeared in dirt and filth. I could do nothing but watch as he slowly inched ever closer towards me until I could feel his hot breath upon my face. It smelled like the musty odor I sometimes detected in the living room. Not once did I see his expression change. He didn't even blink as he stared at me, and I could feel hatred radiating off him like heat from a furnace. He just stood there, looking at me for what felt like hours. Eventually, he turned around and slowly sneaked back out of the room, gently shutting the door behind him. A few minutes later, I started to be able to move again, the paralysis wearing off as my body started to wake up properly. I had to call in sick to my job that day. The experience was such a shock to me that there was no way in hell I'd be able to get any work done. I spent a good hour just checking every room to make sure I was entirely alone. I searched in the closet, under the sinks, in my office, anywhere I thought someone could be hiding. When I found nothing, I managed to convince myself it was all a hallucination, that I was safe. Things continued about the same for a while after that. Objects still went missing from time to time. The smell in the living room stayed just as musty as it ever was. And about every week or so, I'd have another sleep paralysis incident. Of course, now, every time I did experience sleep paralysis, I'd have to see my unwanted visitor again. I named him Jimmy to try and reduce the terror a little bit. Putting a silly name to a horrifying face helped lessen my fear slightly. As far as sleep paralysis hallucinations went, Jimmy wasn't too bad once I started to get used to him. He never touched me or sat on my chest like some people's nightmares did. He just stood and stared. It was still deeply unpleasant, mind you, but I felt lucky that it was a consistent kind of unpleasantness, at least. Then I found the photograph. I noticed it underneath a pile of papers while I was doing some cleaning up. A picture of two women embracing in front of a waterfall. I didn't recognize either of the women, and I assumed it must have been from the previous tenant. So I texted the landlord, Greg, and asked if he still had the old tenant's phone number so I could give her a call. He obliged, and within a few minutes I was calling her. She picked up after a couple of rings, sounding slightly exasperated. "Hello, this is Rebecca. Who's this?" "Do you want to chime in?"
Hi, my name is Flora. I'm the current tenant of apartment 311. I think that you may have left a photograph behind when you moved. I was wondering if you'd want to pick it up or if I could mail it to you or something.
There was a long pause on the other end of the phone.
Hello?
You need to get out of that apartment. You're not safe. I honestly didn't have any response but to laugh.
Is this some kind of joke?
I heard her sigh with frustration. It's not a joke. I'm serious. Things have been going missing, right? That got my attention. How do you know
How
that?
do you know that?
Sorry, that was mine. Wasn't it?
I think I that was that was Flora's,
Okay. Uh, error.
right? Go for it.
How did you know that?
Oh no, how? Okay. Well,
Go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead. Just go.
Well, no. I'm guessing the next one is the lady
Oh, yeah.
because it's the picture of the two ladies, right?
Right. Okay.
Go for it.
It happened with me too. My girlfriend and I kept noticing things being moved or disappearing while we were asleep. Little things mostly snacks, trinkets, nothing major. I never saw this, but my girlfriend swears one time when she got up in the middle of the night to get a glass of water, she saw a naked man just staring at her. He was covered in sores and looked more like a corpse than a person. She woke me up and we called the police, of course, but they didn't find anything. I think. Rebecca paused for a moment, choosing her words.
What? What is it?
I asked, increasingly panicked. I began to worry that Jimmy was more than just a simple hallucination. I think 311 is haunted. We asked around to some of the other residents, and apparently the last guy to live there just disappeared. Our best guess is that he must have died and his spirit just never left. My girlfriend is into some occult stuff, so she tried a cleansing ritual or something like that, but it didn't work. Things kept disappearing, and eventually we just decided to move on. I hung up the phone. It was rude, sure, but I was just so shocked that I didn't know what to do. At the very least, I began to understand why I got this apartment for so cheap. I found myself just sitting on the couch for a while, occasionally getting a whiff of the musty smell. I stared blankly at a painting on the wall, one of the ones which was already there when I first moved in. It depicted a woman in a white dress sitting underneath a tree reading a book. I couldn't tell what was making me so focused on it. It seemed so utterly unrelated to what was happening. Eventually, I snapped out of it and went to my office to do some research. After a bit of digging, I found some information regarding the tenant who lived there before Rebecca, the one who disappeared. Apparently, one of his coworkers put out a missing persons report 6 months ago. His name was Michael Hansen, and I gasped when I saw a photograph of him. He looked exactly like Jimmy, albeit not so emaciated and filthy. I hastily packed some of my things and made arrangements to stay at a friend's house for a couple nights, telling them that my apartment had a roach problem and the landlord had needed to fumigate it. I called into work and gave them some sob story about an uncle dying, enough to get time off for a few days. With no more distractions from the ghost of Michael Hansen, I slept soundly on my friend's couch, unbothered by any sleep paralysis. The next 2 days were spent researching. I checked out dozens of books on folklore and the occult from the local library, scoured paranormal internet forums, and even watched a few episodes of some cheesy ghost hunting TV show. I was determined to figure out a way to put the spirit of Michael Hansen to rest. The stories were all wildly different, with countless potential solutions to my problem. Some sources said salt was a surefire way to banish spirits. Others said iron was a good ghost repellent. But most simply said I should just give up and move. However, one myth piqued my interest. According to some beliefs, the spirit of the unquiet dead could be tied to objects from their life, binding them to the place where the object resided. If the object which their soul was bound to was destroyed, it freed their spirit, and they could move on to the afterlife. I remembered the paintings. I'd assumed they were put there by the landlord, but it was just as possible that they were left behind by Michael. I arrived back at the apartment, determined to grab all the paintings and burn them, laying Michael Hansen's soul to rest once and for all. I felt like some sort of hero, a badass monster hunter who saved the day with her intuition and a little bit of book smarts. One by one, I pulled the paintings off the walls, putting them in a cardboard box. I made a mental note to buy some lighter fluid on the way to the empty lot where I planned to burn them. I approached the final painting, the one which showed a woman in a white dress beneath a tree. I pulled it off the wall and recoiled as the musty smell increased in intensity. Staring in confusion, I saw a small, rectangular hole where the painting used to be, about 4 feet off the ground and 2 feet by 2 feet in length and width. I shuddered in fear, remembering that Michael's body was never found. Perhaps he was murdered, his corpse hidden in the walls by some unknown assailant? I nervously flicked on my flashlight, peered in the hole, and screamed. I ran out of apartment 311 as fast as I could before calling the police, sobbing with terror. I had been prepared to find a body, maybe cut up into little pieces and wrapped in duct tape. I was ready for death and decay and rot. There's something fascinating about ghosts, something somehow romantic, and the notion that part of someone could live on even after death. There's nothing romantic about seeing the clenched-toothed grimace of Michael Hansen glaring at me with hate as he stood in the small section of a hollow wall which he'd been living in for the last 6 months. Ew.
It's the horror of, affordable housing.
The economy. Dun, dun, dun.
If we had more affordable housing, then this wouldn't be a problem. Poor Michael Hansen could actually find a place and actually afford it.
Yep.
I mean,
gotta fix capitalism so nobody sees people hiding in their walls.
I mean, if they put it in their rent, I don't know, they could probably be okay. It's like, hey, there's this one roommate that will be kind of creepy at times, but rent's low. I was like, oh, maybe we could live with that.
Put it that way. Deadbolt your bedroom door and your closet.
Exactly. You just gotta be like, either it's like, dude, come on, put on some pants. I don't want to see that dangling.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I was gonna be pissed off when if he was walking around in his shoes. It's like, no shoes in the apartment. God damn it!
God damn it, man! Come on.
You're gonna track mud all over the place.
Oh my gosh!
And you haven't paid your part of the rent again.
What the hell? Oh my goodness. Oh, my eyes are watering. I think it has more to do with allergies than that, but
No.
All right. Well.
Allergies.
Allergies.
Yeah, it's another horror thing.
It is. I grew into allergies. I didn't used to have them.
It's the notion of you've got these tiny little ethereal things flying in the air, assaulting your face,
Particles,
assaulting your, breathing passages, and then your body just doesn't know what to do. It's like, whoa, I think we're under attack. Oh God!
I better make her eyes water for no reason.
Exactly. It's like, we gotta get this shit out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, these are just things. I think they're just plants trying to get laid.
That they are. That they are.
They just mistake us with another plant.
They just missed a little bit. Oh.
See, this person Flora should have contacted the other guy who specialized in hunting cryptid.
Should have. Yeah. He didn't leave his contact info in the Reddit, which is a shame.
Exactly.
But,
because this is no hide behind.
Yep.
It's just Michael Hansen.
Michael Hansen. Yep. Zoe's gonna study to be a hide behind. She's ready. She's taking notes. She's learning. She's
Is there
precious and
any
tiny.
way you could set up uh some kind of mechanics so that her jaw could move? Because that'd be freaking awesome.
That'd be fun. That sounds like more work than I'm willing to do at this time.
Ah, fair enough.
I
Does her
could
jaw open up?
duct tape her to the back of my chair so she can be like an actual hide behind. Oh,
Or
somebody's gonna get mad. Somebody's gonna be so mad that I'm making fun of cryptids. Look, I respect your
fair, fair.
beliefs.
Hey, cryptids,
I'm just
um,
not concerned myself.
yeah. Well, you've got Mochi
I've got Mochi.
protecting you, so
Yeah, she's behind me
and
too. She's fine.
exactly.
Yeah.
She's keeping an eye on things.
Yes, she is.
And,
Very
cats,
diligent.
since the ancient times, they've always been the guardian, right?
Yes, she is
And
very brave, as we all know.
well, she's brave for the unseen.
Exactly.
She's she just doesn't like, people coming to try to touch her.
Yeah. She just doesn't like movement or um movement movement.
To be fair, we humans can be really the worst monsters there are.
The
So
real
I don't blame her.
monster was humans all along.
The monsters we meet along the way.
Yeah.
Us.
The real monster was the friends we wait. Oh goodness. Well, how are you feeling?
I want to do one more,
Perfect.
and let's go with the top one. The top no sleep article about sugar daddies.
Oh no.
It's it's a different it's a different kind of story maybe.
uh,
So
let's
this one
see.
is my sugar daddy asked me for weird favors. It is by user EAPATPB. No, hold on. EAPATBP. There we go.
There you go. Good job.
So if you sort it by top all time,
I found it.
and this is the top one. His Tinder profile said he was 45, but he looked to be in his early 30s at most. Looking for a sugar baby, $700 weekly, no sex. It sounded to be too good to be true. But as a broke university student, I was willing to take my chances. I swiped right, and Tinder let me know it was a match. His message came seconds later.
Hey there, sweetheart.
I cringed at that word. I hated it. But $700 was $700. So I sucked it up and replied, "Hey, winky face." His name was Jack, and he told me he owned his own business, although he never specified what kind of business it was. We talked for a while before he asked me for my Venmo to send me my first payment. After a few minutes, I got a notification. I stared at his $700 for at least 20 minutes, expecting to wake up from a dream at any second. But it wasn't a dream.
You still there?
I clicked on the message. Yeah, sorry, if you don't mind me asking, what are you looking for in return? I stared at the chat until he replied.
Just looking for you to do a few favors for me. Smiley face.
That sounded like it was going to be sexual to me. Like what?
For example, first thing I need you to do is pick up a delivery for me.
That sounded innocent enough, but I was still expecting there to be some kind of twist. $700 to pick up a package? Come on, even I wasn't that naive. From the post office or something?
No. I'll send you the address, but I'd rather not do this through Tinder. You got Kick, or you can send me your number.
Ick. What is this, 2011? I decided to give him my number instead, and he texted me the address immediately, followed by the address to his house, where I would have to drop off the package.
I'm not home right now, but there's a key on the bottom of the blue flower pot near the door. Go inside and put the package on the coffee table in the living room. Make sure that you lock the door when you go inside the house, and lock it again when you leave.
I grabbed my car keys and wallet and got into my car, putting the address into Google Maps. Got it. On my way. My phone buzzed as I backed out of my driveway.
I'm serious. Lock the door both times. Please.
Thought that was a little excessive, but I promised him that I would. The house looked abandoned. It had a broken chain link fence around it, with a small door that was hanging onto dear life. It stuck out like a sore thumb, surrounded by houses that were a lot nicer than this one in comparison.
You here for jack shit?
I looked up to see a man standing in the open doorway of the house. He took up almost the entire space, his head skimming the top of the doorframe. He was huge, in height and muscles, and his entire torso was covered in tattoos. Um, yeah, I guess, I replied, not moving from my spot on the sidewalk.
Stay right there.
He said. I did. I actually don't think I would have moved if he had asked me to. I looked around and realized that there was no one else on the street. I was a 21-year-old woman alone in the street. I gripped my car keys. A few minutes later, the man came out carrying a cardboard box. It was the size of a shoebox, but stained and damp on some of the corners.
Can you open your car?
I opened the trunk, not wanting that inside of my car seat, and he set it in.
All right, there you go.
Thanks, I replied. I walked around to the driver's side of the car and opened the door.
Oh, one more thing.
I looked at him.
Watch out.
I didn't reply. I blasted my music as I drove to Jack's house, hoping it would drown out my anxiety. It didn't. I parked my car in the stone driveway and stayed inside the car, admiring the house. It was a huge house, with stone pillars on the front porch and the greenest grass I had ever seen in my life. I turned the car off and got out. I grabbed the package and walked to the front door, getting the key from where he said it would be. I opened the door and stepped in, closing it behind me. I thought about what he had said about locking the door when I got inside. I thought that was a little overboard, but as I stared at the closed door, something made me reach out and lock it. I walked inside, my feet cushioned by the thick maroon carpet, and admired the inside of the house. All the furniture was wooden and looked incredibly expensive. I would probably finish school a dozen times with the money that it took to furnish this place. I set the package down on the coffee table. As I walked back to the door, I heard a phone ring from somewhere inside the house. I froze. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. I took it out to look.
Don't answer any calls that aren't from Marvin.
I put my phone back and followed the source of the sound, poking my head into a few different rooms before I found it in an office. I walked over to the desk and looked at the caller ID. Incoming call from Jack. That was odd. I grabbed my phone to look at the message again. I was starting to get a little bit creeped out and decided I wouldn't answer just to be safe, and left the house, remembering to lock the door as I left. I've done a few more favors for Jack since then. I drove a BMW to a random park in another city, only to get out and drive a different car back to Jack's house. He had me meet one of his employees at lunch, who then gave me a briefcase to deliver to the first house I had gone to and told me he would know if I looked inside. On several occasions, he asked me to drive down to that same house and stay with the guy, whose name was Julio, for a certain amount of time. In total, I've made around $3,500. Most recently, Jack asked me to stay in his house overnight. I woke up to a text message from him.
I need you to spend the night at my house.
I hadn't ever seen him in person, but I talked to him on the phone a few times. He proceeded to tell me he would pay $1,000 to spend the night at his house, provided I followed a few rules. I drove to his house that evening. The driveway was empty, as it normally was, but the porch light was on. I walked up, unlocked the door, went inside, and then locked it again. Everything in the house looked the same. Jack had told me over the phone that he would leave the list of rules on the dining room table. I set all my stuff down in the living room. My bags looked like a garbage compared to the fancy furniture in there. I wandered into the kitchen and then to the dining room. Sure enough, there was a piece of paper on the wooden table, held down by an empty glass.
Lock the doors when you come in. Only answer calls from Marvin. Don't turn on any faucets between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. Don't open the door for anyone, no matter who they say they are, after 10 p.m. If the door to the closet at the end of the hall is open, sleep in the library. If closed, sleep in any of the bedrooms. The gardener comes at midnight. If he starts knocking on the windows, hide. Turn the TV on and let it play on static through the night. Do not forget to do this. Help yourself to anything in the fridge. Smiley face. I'll pay you in the morning. Good night.
I made sure to follow all the rules. To be honest, I was regretting my decision. But seeing as I was already here and I was getting paid, I decided to stay anyway. I figured as long as I followed all the rules, I'd be perfectly fine. Still, it felt a little odd. What was this? A haunted mansion? Nevertheless, I lounged around the house for a few hours, as I was planning on going to sleep around 9, since that's the time that all the weird shit would begin to happen. At 8:50, I brushed my teeth, using the faucet for the last time before 9 o'clock. I checked the closet in the hallway, and upon seeing that it was open, I moved my stuff into the library and got ready to sleep on the couch. I locked the doors just in case and laid on the couch, scrolling through my phone. I hadn't gotten any more messages from Jack, and I started to think up scenarios and reasons as to why he had such strict, peculiar sets of rules in his house. I had dozed off at some point because at exactly 10:16 p.m., I was woken up by the doorbell ringing. I was about to get up and check, but then I remembered the rule.
Don't open the
Don't.
door for anyone, no matter who they say they are, after 10 p.m.
I stayed on the couch, trying not to move. paranoid that they would hear even the slightest sound.
It's the police. Open up. Hello? It's the police. Open up or we're coming in.
I still didn't move, but I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. There was silence for a while after that. Then the doorbell rang again.
Hey, it's Jack. Let me in.
It sounded like Jack, but still, he didn't get up. He would have a key, wouldn't he? Why would he need me to let him in? This continued for almost an hour. Different people would ring the doorbell, announce themselves, and then disappear when I didn't respond. I was finally able to fall asleep, and then the gardener never came. When I woke up in the next morning, I heard someone in the kitchen. I got up slowly and unlocked the door as quietly as possible, taking my phone with me and walking across the living room and into the kitchen. I stopped at the entrance and peered in. It was Jack. He was standing in the front of the stove, stirring something as the coffee machine brewed coffee on the counter behind him.
Hey, good morning.
He said when he saw me. "Hi," I replied, nervous. I haven't seen him in person before, but he looked exactly like his pictures online.
Scrambled eggs?
He asked, motioning to the pan with a wooden spoon. "Yeah, thanks," I replied, walking over to the plate to take the plate from him. I ate my breakfast and drank some coffee in silence.
So, how was it?
"It was okay. Nothing super freaky happened," I replied.
Cool.
There was an awkwardness in the room. "I think I'm gonna go now. I have class," I trailed off. I didn't, but I really wanted to get out of there.
Oh, no, yeah, sure. I'll talk to you some other time.
I grabbed my stuff and he walked me to my car. I could see him standing in the driveway, staring at me as I left. When I got home, I unpacked all my stuff and noticed that I still had the list with me. I sat on the bed and read it again. I felt my body tense up as I realized that I'd forgotten something.
Turn the TV on and let it play on static through the night. Do not forget this. Turn the TV on and let it play on static throughout the night. Do not forget this. Do not forget this.
Stare at the words on the page until they lost meaning. Beside me, my phone buzzed, snapping me back to reality. It was the $1,000 payment. I looked at my phone and back at the list. Maybe it wasn't an important step. As I was thinking this over, a text from Jack came.
I'm not in town right now. I should be back next week, so you're free from running any more errands for me till then. Just sent the payment. Go do something fun, winky face.
I stared at the message and read it again and again and once more for good measure.
I'm not in town right now.
thought back to this morning and how Jack was in his house. How he gave me breakfast.
I'm not in town right now.
Within minutes, a new text came in, this time from a number that I didn't recognize.
Did you forget to do something?
The text was followed by a picture of Jack, or whoever this version of Jack was, standing in front of the TV. I didn't respond. Next came another picture. This one was of the outside of my house. It was followed by another text.
Watch out.
That was that was spooky as shit.
Ooh, that was a good one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, you know, sometimes I leave a podcast on when I go to sleep. To have some not static, but
Not
some
static,
voice,
but
some white noise.
something. Yep. I'll often have a YouTube video or something playing on my phone for just sound.
Right. As long as it's not Jacksepticeye, right?
Right. No,
Because it's
no,
kind of
no one
hard to
who
go to sleep with.
yells at any point.
Top of the morning to
Top of
you.
the morning. Wakey,
It's like I'm
wakey.
trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Stop.
I had to carefully choose, or carefully sort who I could listen to at bedtime. Oh my goodness. Well, that was fun.
Well, there's a reason why this is on the top of the subreddit, I guess.
Yep, that was a very well written one. It had everything I like cryptids, weird rules, mystery, intrigue. Love it.
Yeah. See, I would fail at the first thing. It's like, oh, is the police? Like, okay, sure.
Oh,
What do you want? Police is like, oh, great. You know?
yep. See, I am a rule follower. This might be the
Ah,
only
fair.
situation in which I'd survive a horror movie because I'd follow all those weird rules. Like, it's
Well,
their
the thing
house.
is,
I'll do the weird rituals, whatever.
I would forget. That's the thing. It's like it's the police. It's like, well, the police doesn't care about these fucking rules. They're gonna shoot me, if I don't open up the fucking
Yeah,
door.
fair enough. I mean, if I was all the way back in the library and I did all that, I'd probably, in this scenario in which I've been
Right,
instructed
right.
not to open the door at all, I would just stay and wait and see what happens. And then,
Fair.
hands up if they come in, like, I'm sorry, I was told that. I didn't hear you. But I'm also, a cute white girl, so I probably wouldn't get shot.
Do not forget to do this.
Do not forget to do this. I totally I was reading the list in the beginning and going, "Wow, this is awesome. That's great." Totally forgot. I was all excited because I was like, "Oh yeah, she checked the door. She's sleeping in the library. Like she's got it. No gardener. We're good." No, forgot. I forgot about the
Yeah,
TV thing. The one that says, "Do not forget this."
right. I
I
mean,
forgot it.
see, the thing is, like, if the TV wasn't in the library, you actually have to go find the TV, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Could she have put static on her phone? I don't know what the
yeah,
rules are.
exactly. The rules.
Uh-huh.
The rules.
The rules. There's a horror movie I watched recently. It's been out for a few years. I just now got around to it. It's on Netflix called The Boy, and it has a similar thing going on with rules that must be followed. And I like that.
Really?
I like creepy rules. It's a good trope for me, I guess. Maybe it's because I'd be excited to actually survive in a horror movie instead of going, I'm gonna check out the stairs in the woods.
See, the thing is,
Die.
in some ways, it's kind of a very interesting, like it's almost the mythos of the devil itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the devil likes to make contracts, or like, the monkey paw of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, be careful what you wish for, because you have to basically hire a lawyer, a good attorney.
Pretty
It's
much.
like, hey, make a fucking contract out of
Yep.
this, and it's like, and
Close
then
all the
sign this
loopholes.
in triplicate, and
Uh-huh.
basically we'll cover all the bases, and it's gonna be a 64-page contract,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything's covered. Terms and condition may apply.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah,
This contract is subject to termination at any time for any
exactly.
reason by
And it's
me.
subject to
Yeah.
arbitration, blah blah blah.
Yep. Oh my
It's
gosh.
there's always you know a set of rules that they kind of have to
Yeah.
I guess both parties are bound, so in some ways it makes it um fairer, more
Fairish.
fair,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But
think I like it because it gives you a way to avoid getting killed by the monsters. You
yeah,
have the magic things to do to beat the things rather than just being helpless. I think that's like when you're just take horror games for example. It's not scary when you've been given a way to like fight back, but if you're helpless, it's like god damn it, this is frustrating.
it gives you that little bit of hope.
Yeah, and I think I like that. I think
Yeah.
that's why I enjoy like the Appalachian, as they say. I think. I'm sorry if I'm so wrong. I'm doing my best here.
Hey,
Internet taught.
Appalachian, yeah.
Appalachian.
There you go.
They're like mythos and stuff. Because it all has like rules. Like don't whistle in the woods. Don't, which is something I do back before I didn't know you should do that. um, like keeping rice by your bed and things, or painting your door blue, or keeping a broom by the front door. It's like all these different things. It's like, okay, this horrible thing exists, terrifying. Here's what you do. And I love it. You should look up not deer though. It's fascinating.
See, I think these little stories could definitely be like, what do you call it, uh like a Netflix shorts or something like that, or
Limited
like
series.
or like a
Yeah.
YouTube thing.
Oh yeah.
you know you,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I wouldn't be surprised if someone has already got a YouTube channel
Right. This
with
post has 62,000 likes. I would like to believe somebody has made it.
that is a ridiculous number of likes, yeah.
Oh, I just read like the top highlighted comment. You forgot two rules actually. The TV, and you didn't lock the door behind you when you left. It's why fake Jack was able to follow you. Ooh!
Oh, yikes.
Ooh, damn!
That was the secret rule
A
that wouldn't.
secret second twist. God damn. Ooh, I love it. That's a really good one.
Yikes.
That's a strong finish.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm gonna start scouring the comments now, so we should probably wrap up the stream. Well, thank you, Mr. HmmRice, for joining me today and for this
My
idea.
pleasure.
This was all him, guys. It was very smart, and this was very fun. I hope you guys had fun because this was great. I love telling scary stories. Okay. All right. Well, I'll be back
Oh,
tomorrow with another something. What am I playing tomorrow? I don't even remember. It's all blurring together. I'm 12 days into this, okay? I will be
I
playing
think Darkwood.
Conrad's.
Oh no,
What's that?
paranormal. Is it Paranormal PI?
Yes, Conrad Stevenson's Paranormal PI is what I will play tomorrow. So that'll be fun. It's still in early access, but they've made a lot of like updates and things since the last time I played it, so I'm excited to see that. And yeah, hope you guys can come along. So, Thanks so much for joining. Thank Anthony for joining because he's great.
Thank you
Say,
for having me.
yeah, thanks for coming. All right, guys, we will see you next time. Bye
Watch
bye.
out.